I'm Liz Faublis, and this is Currents. The many faces of the church gather in downtown Brooklyn.
All of us here, we have different talents, we have different ideas, we come from different cultural backgrounds, but we all come together in the body of Christ.
Plus another commencement controversy at a premier Catholic college. And a senior prom for a slightly older crowd.
Our high school, and most high schools, are having their senior prom in May. So we thought that seniors who are not seniors in high school, but seniors in life, that they should have an opportunity to have a prom as well.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us. In his message for this year's World Day of Prayer for Vocations, Pope Benedict recognized the Church's ecclesial movements as potential ground for future vocations. The Pope encouraged clergy, religious, and those who work to educate young people to keep a close eye on these movements, along with other church groups, to recognize young men who may have a call to the priesthood. Ecclesial movements, which are relatively new in the life of the Church, are groups of lay people who come together to pray, worship, and exercise the works of the Church. The Diocese of Brooklyn is home to a number of them. This past Saturday, the diocese held a celebration in their honor at St. James Cathedral.
Tonight we have our annual gathering of all the new ecclesial movements in the diocese. At this Mass we bring them together and we recognize that they are the fruit of the Second Vatican Council. This year we're celebrating 50 years. An ecclesial movement is within the Church a group of people who gather together intentionally in communities outside of parishes to make a difference in the life of the Church.
This community is a place where people receive encouragement to share their faith with others because they are experiencing that with a small group of people. It was young and old. It was different colors, different ethnic groups. It was wonderful.
Li parlait bien fort. Il dit full monio con ça.
Si parlerà del Signore alla generazione che viene.
Vivían unidos y tenían todo en común.
You pray together as a group separate from the Mass. So I was missing that part. I was missing how to enjoy, how to praise the Lord in a different way, not just only in the regular Sunday Mass, where we come and for 1 hour, and then after we're done with the Mass, everybody goes home.
When we come to church, we want to be alive, and we want to have an experience of Jesus. And when people are singing, when their responses are heard, then there's a wonderful sense that you go out with a song in your heart. And this helps to really transform your day.
For me, being in the movement helped me a lot to overcome all my problems, and my faith increased a lot in the movement.
We was with a lot of troubles with my wife, and this movement helped me to bring up my heart, my mind, and everything. And I'm so happy with my wife thanks to this movement, and that's why I'm here.
Jesus is the vine. He is the life-giving spirit to all of us. And he tells us, you know, we are the branches.
My wife Lynn and I, as I mentioned, began LAMP Ministries purely out of a desire to evangelize among the materially poor. For example, one of our LAMP missionaries recently, after told us that she visited one of the homeless mothers that she visits, and the woman said, "Since you've been coming and praying with me, I don't hit my kids anymore."
Together we make the Church of this new springtime. The pruning, yes, is necessary. The suffering will be there, but the results are the Lord's to give us.
Such great work by all the ecclesial movements. We really pray for their continued success. Well, there's more currents ahead. Is it a conservative boost to Mitt Romney's campaign? We'll find out and get the rest of the day's headlines next. Welcome back to Currents. I'm Liz Faublis. Could the latest developments be just what Mitt Romney needs to get social conservatives in his corner? Well, we'll see. Former Pennsylvania Senator Rick Santorum, who was Romney's biggest challenger in the Republican presidential primary, announced that he is endorsing Romney for the White House. In an email to supporters, Santorum says that both he and Romney agree that, quote, President Obama must be defeated, end quote. Santorum says that Romney has his endorsement in what he calls the most critical election of our lifetime. The former Pennsylvania senator was seen as the best conservative alternative to Romney, whose views on issues including abortion have been heavily scrutinized. Santorum, who is Catholic, dropped out of the race last month shortly after his 3-year-old daughter Bella was released from the hospital. Bella Santorum suffers from a rare genetic condition. The issue of religious freedom will be at the top of the list for U.S. bishops when they gather for their annual spring assembly next month. The bishops will meet in Atlanta from June 13th through the 15th. They will have a 2-hour floor discussion on religious freedom at the domestic and the international levels. Catholic Charity's new president and CEO, Carolyn Wu, will address the gathering. Among other issues on the bishops' agenda, a progress report on the Charter for the Protection of Children and Young People, efforts to promote and defend marriage, and a proposal for a special message addressing work, poverty, and the economy. Pope Benedict gives U.S. bishops the thumbs up in their social media efforts. EWTN News reports the Pope gave his personal approval for bishops in the southeastern U.S. who are utilizing social media to evangelize. Atlanta Archbishop Wilton Gregory tells EWTN that Pope Benedict understands and supports the bishop's use of social media because it allows the church to enter people's lives in an immediate, effective, and global way. Meanwhile, an archbishop from down under is backing away from a threat to sue Twitter. According to the Sydney Morning Herald, lawyers for Cardinal George Pell said a tweet by an Australian comedian intentionally and maliciously took an actual quote by the cardinal out of context to imply he was involved in the sexual abuse of young boys. The paper reports that a complaint was sent to Twitter after they failed to remove the tweet. The comedian later removed it herself, a move that a spokeswoman for Cardinal Pell said he was grateful for. Voters in North Carolina headed to the polls today. On the ballot, Amendment 1, which would affirm marriage in the state as between a man and a woman. Some big names have come out both for and against the measure. World-renowned evangelist Billy Graham placed ads in newspapers across the state urging residents to vote for the amendment. Meanwhile, former President Bill Clinton recorded a radio ad urging people to vote it down. The bishops of North Carolina also weighed in this past weekend. They sent a letter to all parishes in the state's 2 dioceses urging them to vote for the amendment. Irish Cardinal Sean Brady has apologized to a victim of an abusive priest. Brady apologized to the victim along with all victims of abuse. The cardinal says a recent BBC News program misrepresented his role in the 1975 investigation of the priest in question. At the time, Cardinal Brady was a priest of the Diocese of Kilmore. Speaking with the Irish broadcaster RTE, the cardinal says that he hopes that a coadjutor archbishop with succession rights would be appointed to his archdiocese of Armagh. Such an appointment would result in the coadjutor taking over immediately following Brady's resignation, whenever that occurs. A bishop in Syria has high hopes for a visit by UN observers. Bishop Giuseppe Nazaro, the apostolic vicar of Aleppo, tells Fides that he hopes the UN mission of observers is credible, fair, independent, and restorers of peace. Special envoy to Syria Kofi Annan said the observers were the last hope for the country before it descends into civil war. Voters there headed to the polls on Monday to decide who will fill 250 seats in Syria's parliament. The election comes after changes to the country's constitution that allow political parties to compete with the ruling Ba'ath Party. From Africa, a priest in Mozambique was beaten to death last week at his parish residence. According to the website All Africa, the priest went to the door after hearing a commotion outside. When he opened the door, the attackers struck, beating him with blunt instruments. They also stole money, 3 laptops, 2 cell phones, and other equipment. According to All Africa, it's the second attack at a Catholic parish residence in Mozambique in less than a month. Well, if you're a mom, Scandinavia may be the place to be. Rome Reports has more on a new study.
What's the best country for mothers? Well, to answer that very question, a study was conducted by the international organization Save the Children. The study analyzed factors like education, economics, health, and politics for mothers and their children. And according to the study, Norway, Iceland, and Sweden are the countries where mothers can live the best. In the country of Norway, for example, life expectancy is 82 years old, and only 1 in 175 children die before the age of 5. Out of 165 countries, the African country of Niger was last. There, women's life expectancy is 56, and on average, they receive about 4 years of education, and 1 in every 7 children die before the age of 5. The top 10 countries include 8 from Europe, while 8 of the 10 worst countries are in Africa.
Stay tuned, there's more currents ahead. Coming up, from one controversy to another for a member of the Obama administration. The name Kathleen Sebelius is now an all too familiar one, especially to U.S. Catholic bishops. As the Obama administration's Health and Human Services Secretary, Sebelius spearheaded the government's controversial contraception insurance mandate. That rule would require religious organizations to offer contraceptives, including those that induce abortion, free of charge in their insurance plans. Sebelius, a Catholic, raised the ire of conservatives and U.S. bishops who say the mandate is an outright violation not only of the First Amendment, but of the religious liberties of every Catholic who would be forced to violate their conscience. Well, the HHS secretary is now mired in yet another controversy. Georgetown, the nation's oldest Catholic and Jesuit university, has announced she will address the Policy Institute's graduating class at commencement on May 18. Georgetown praised Sebelius for leading efforts to improve America's health and enhance the delivery of human services to some of the nation's most vulnerable populations, including young children, those with disabilities, and the elderly. Well, while that may be the case, not everyone agrees Sebelius deserves the honor of addressing a Catholic institution of higher learning, simply because many of her policies conflict with the teachings of the Catholic Church. Well, the conservative Cardinal Newman Society, which monitors Catholic schools for any actions it deems a danger to the faith, called the Sebelius invitation scandalous and outrageous. Patrick Riley, president of the CNS, says the invitation is an insult to all Americans. I spoke to Patrick earlier today. Patrick, I want to ask you first, have you reached out to Georgetown, and if so, what reason did they give for inviting Sebelius?
We did reach out to Georgetown. They've not communicated with us, so we don't really have a explicit reason from them. We did talk to a former dean of the Georgetown Public Policy Institute who was quite happy with the choice.
Now, in the wake of fallout following invites by Anna Maria College and Mercy College of guests that were deemed unacceptable because of their positions on issues that are contrary to the Catholic Church, it appears that this is kind of turning their noses up at the decisions that were made last time on the part of Georgetown. Is this your stance?
Yeah, I think this is a betrayal of the bishops, and they're honoring someone who has been steadfastly opposed to the Church's religious freedom rights under the First Amendment, and also is a Catholic who holds a very strong pro-abortion position. So this is obviously someone who should not be honored by a Catholic university.
Patrick, and you also write that schools like Georgetown and also DePaul are quote, repeat offenders. So this was not a surprise to you, or was it?
It's interesting. It's not a surprise, and yet it's shocking at the same time. It's shocking just in how blatant it is, especially this year, to be honoring Kathleen Sebelius. It's just a rather in-your-face type of action by Georgetown.
Patrick, I want to ask you, if a speaker has no intention of promoting the causes that the Catholic Church and the Cardinal Newman Society consider an affront, and they speak purely on topics that they are knowledgeable in this case it would be public policy, because that's the school she was invited to speak at, or maybe even topics that will encourage, motivate, and teach, is this still unacceptable?
It's absolutely unacceptable, and they're selecting someone for honor. So that honor extends to issues beyond what they're talking about, and one needs to think about what the thought process is for these universities when they choose these people. There are plenty of others that they could choose.
Now, I know you've reached out to Georgetown, and I'm sure you want to cover all your bases. Have you also reached out to the United States Conference of Bishops? And if so, what are their thoughts, and have they suggested any recourse?
Well, we've reached out to Cardinal Wuerl, the Archbishop of Washington. It would be his responsibility to oversee Georgetown University, and at this time, he has said he has no comment. We are hoping that that means that there are behind-the-scenes discussions, as I would assume there are.
Patrick, I also want to broaden this out in the time that we have. In the case of Georgetown and others, it actually goes beyond this invitation to Sibelius. You've also expressed outrage about so-called quote, lavender graduation events for homosexual students, saying that they are sadly becoming common on Catholic campuses across the country. This is a growing trend?
It is a growing trend, and we have concerns about it, not because, due respect shouldn't be shown to all students, regardless of, whatever issues or, personal issues that they may have. But to set up a special type of graduation ceremony for these students actually seems to elevate it and encourage a culture that frankly, the Church considers to be, leading at least to immoral activity.
Patrick, what I find interesting is you've suggested honoring the bishops who are vigilantly at this time and have always been fighting for religious liberty against government overreach at our Catholic colleges. Have any such tributes been paid lately, and do you know of any such tributes that will be paid in the future?
Well, we know that Cardinal Dolan will be honored at two different colleges. One is Manhattan College in New York, and the other is Catholic University of America. So yes, there are some bishops that are being honored. Unfortunately, we just saw as Anna Maria College disinvited its speaker at the bishop's urging. Now the college has asked the bishop not to attend because they're concerned that it would cause some sort of unrest at commencement. So, I think there could be a lot more respect for our bishops, frankly.
And I should mention once again, we've spoken before, obviously, that the Cardinal Newman Society finds at least 11 scandalous speakers and honorees at Catholic colleges. And just for the edification of our viewers, explain briefly how you quantify what makes a prospective guest speaker inappropriate.
Well, we look at the bishop's 2004 policy, which said that Catholic institutions should not honor individuals who publicly oppose fundamental Catholic teachings. So, if somebody's not with the bishops on, say, the death penalty, well, that's a prudential judgment issue, and it would be up to the college whether they're comfortable with that person. But when it comes to things like abortion, same-sex marriage, if they're publicly opposing the Church on those issues, then they really shouldn't be honored by the schools.
All right, Patrick. Well, with 11 on the list and more to come, I suspect we'll probably be talking about this at another time. But for now, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, on May 5th, a day after the Sibelius announcement, Pope Benedict XVI told a group of American bishops visiting Rome that bishops and universities have to get on the same page when it comes to affirming orthodoxy and avoid confusion created by instances of apparent dissidence between some representatives of Catholic institutions and the Church's pastoral leadership. Stay tuned. There's more currents ahead. When we return, giving new meaning to the senior prom.
It's a way for us to get our parishioners that are 55 and older an opportunity to come out, socialize, enjoy themselves.
And finally tonight, it's time to get that perfect dress, rent a tuxedo, make sure you get something special for your date, and maybe even rent a limo for the occasion. It's prom season, and while these rites of passage are typically aimed at high school crowd, you're never too old for a dance. The Church of St. Savior in Park Slope recently hosted an event that gave new meaning to the words senior prom.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening and welcome. Welcome to the senior prom. We are having our senior prom. Our high school, and most high schools, are having their senior prom in May. So we thought that seniors who are not seniors in high school, but seniors in life, that they should have an opportunity to have a prom as well. So that's what we're doing tonight.
It's a way for us to get our parishioners that are 55 and older an opportunity to come out, socialize, enjoy themselves, maybe get them out of the house if they have, been housebound, have something to eat, a little bit to drink, enjoy the music that they like. It's an opportunity to foster a sense of community for our older parishioners.
Oh, I love the music. That's my speed. Yeah, I love it.
I never went to my senior prom. I never went to my college prom. Now that I'm on this one, I'm really enjoying it.
I'm glad that we came. The alternative was to stay home and watch TV, and we can always do that. So this was something special, and I'm glad we came.
This is the first time, but I'm so glad. I hope they have it all the time.
What was I looking for? Young guys.
Sometimes those people that are 55 and above kind of get sloughed off, and we want to make sure that they know that they're important and that we have opportunities for them to come back into the community. It's not just going to Mass, but to be a part of the whole church community.
I had my senior prom, and I had a wonderful, wonderful time. So I thought that maybe we should make sure that the senior prom isn't just once in your life, but when you become a senior in life, you have the opportunity again.
A group of men and women who are truly young at heart. Well, that is all for tonight. Coming up on tomorrow's show, what is the new evangelization? A top Vatican cardinal was in New York to answer that. We'll hear what he has to say. Until then, be sure to visit us online at currentsny.net. You can also follow us on Twitter and connect with us on Facebook. For all of us here at Currents, I'm Liz Faublas. Thank you for watching and have a good night.